You're talking about artwork and symbolism inside of what we have been told for most of my school life as secular buildings, separation of church and state, separate everything separate, churches over here, governments over here, and you're talking about that symbolism inside the Capitol.
The Capitol's probably one of the greatest religious museums in America. I mean, it's that simple. And what's ironic about that painting of the Pilgrims is, in a large measure, we have the U.S. Capitol because of the Bible the Pilgrims had. Because in that Bible, they're the ones that found this radical notion, and they based it on Exodus 18:21, that we should elect our own leaders. So this is such a radical notion. I mean, find any land that they were living in that was doing that at the time. You know, Great Britain wasn't doing it, and Spain or France or Holland or Poland, nobody's doing it. Before they got off that ship, now they've been spending days and hours in this thing, they say, Exodus 18:21, we should choose out leaders from among us. We should choose leaders of tens, 50s, hundreds, and thousands. We need to have elections. So before they got off that ship, they wrote out that Mayflower Compact that set up that they were going to elect their leaders.
Amazing.
And that's not what they just left behind, but that Bible. So here we meet in the U.S. Capitol, the greatest building in the world for elected representation. And why do we have a picture of the Pilgrims hanging over there with a Bible? Because that's what gave us elected representation.
Wow.
So, and you know, it's even funny when you get to direct policies that we have in Congress, because Congress debates all these big issues. For years, they debate welfare reform. The Pilgrims had the first welfare reform bill in America, you know, hanging right there in the Capitol where they debate that. But the Pilgrim Welfare Reform Bill, and bless their hearts, they came as Christians. They loved one another. They had a community of Christians, community of faith, said, let's look out for one another, let's take care of one another. And they're a bunch of city slickers that arrive in Massachusetts in wintertime. They have no idea how to live. They can't fish, they can't hunt, they don't know which end of a gun to point. I mean, it's pretty bad. And it was so bad that in the first year, 50% of the Pilgrims died in that first winter. I mean, it was that bad that it just ravaged, killed half of them. The remaining group of Pilgrims the next winter killed half of the remaining group. So this is, I mean, it's tough to live in America in their standpoint. So here they are in America, and they've got this communal kind of attitude that really we would call socialistic. And what they did was they had everything in common. And so since it was so hard to cultivate and to farm and to get living there, they were sharing what they had with one another. And a lot of the folks said, you know what, I don't have to work real hard and I'm still going to get taken care of. I mean, I don't have to do a lot of labor and they're still going to split food with me. And that's the way it had been for the first few years of the Pilgrims. But they're reading along and they come to this radical verse in 2 Thessalonians 3:10 that says, if you don't work, you don't eat. And they get this brainstorm that says, you know, we're feeding a lot of people that aren't working. And so they came up with a new announcement and said, okay guys, we're going to take care of the orphans and the widows and the others that can't take care of themselves among us. But if you can work and you don't, then you're not going to get food as part of the deal. I mean, you got to supply your own. And they also looked at 1 Timothy 5:8 that says that if you don't take care of your own household, you're worse than an infidel. And they were taking care of everybody else's house. That's what broke socialism in America, because we started out with socialism. And the Pilgrims in the Bible found this stuff. They had the first welfare reform bill. Within 2 years, they were so productive, they had so much efficiency, that the Jamestown colony said, we need to do it like they do. So they left socialism in Jamestown and adopted that you don't work, you don't eat plan. That's the first welfare reform bill in America. Well, Congress still fights with welfare reform today, not even realizing that that Bible right there is what not only gave us elected government, it's what gave us so many of the successful social programs that we have. Out of the Bible, we get the free enterprise system. Out of the Bible, we get the concept of private property. I mean, we never hear, but the Pilgrims bought the land from the Indians. The king gave it to them, but they got here and said, no, no, the Bible teaches private property. They went to the Indians and said, we know the land's yours, can we buy it from you? I mean, all this stuff came out of the Bible, and that's why they put that painting in the Capitol, so that we would know that so many of the civil liberties we have came out of that book.